Hi, John.
Hi.
Hi. So, I'm wondering why you started making the film.
Ooh. Well, I was the victim of female perpetrated domestic violence. And I went through a lot in that, and not only the relationship itself, but the aftermath. And people don't understand that there is an aftermath. Because I even had my mum say, the relationship's over now, it's fine, you're okay. But you're not, and you're left with the trauma of that. And I was classified as having PTSD. I was on medication. I was in therapy, and it took me a long time to get over that. I wrote a book, From the Darkness, about my experience in the relationship and about the aftermath. And I only thought a couple of people would read this, a couple of mates might read it, and it really took off on Twitter. And men were coming forward and saying, yeah, this happened to me. And I thought, well, if men are speaking out because of my book, how else can I help men speak out? Because it was cathartic to me, so I'm assuming it would be cathartic to them. And they're voluntarily telling me about their trauma and about their relationship. So I met Tom Cornish and a guy in America who said that they would want to make a documentary with me, because I thought that was the progressive way to go from my book to film. And I had people who were coming to me saying, yeah, I'll be a part of the documentary. Unfortunately, the guy in America turned out that he was not a victim of abuse, but an abuser. So, unfortunately, he had to go. And me and Tom said, you know, we can do this. We can do this on our own. So that's what brought us together, and that's what brought us to make the film.
And how many victims or, survivors have you spoken to in filming?
So far, I've spoken to 2 survivors, and I've also spoken to the Abused Men in Scotland organisation, who told me some shocking stuff about the people they speak to. I have 3 other guys lined up to interview. A 4th one, who I thought would be very good on camera, because he's a bouncer from London, and he's a big guy. And I thought that image of a big guy being abused by a woman, and he tells me she was only a little woman, that would be a powerful image, because it can happen to anybody. Unfortunately, he's not ready yet, but I've offered to meet him with no camera and no sound equipment and just have a chat and see if he's ready to speak out, because, like I say, speaking out is a powerful tool.
It is a powerful tool, isn't it? And obviously your book's really making an impact, and it seems to be affecting people, and people are relating to it. And I mean, are there any people who have said to you, not only has this happened to me, but this is going on now, and reading your book is giving me the motivation to say, I want to get out now?
I've not spoken to somebody who's in a relationship in that happening yet. I have spoken to, there's a singer with a band called the King Blues named Itch, and he said, reading your book, it was like reading my own life story. And he said, I'm so glad that this exists, which was really nice to hear. And we're here at the Men's Psychology Conference today, and yesterday so many people came up to me and they knew who I was, they knew about the book, and I'm so humbled by that people actually know about it, and that shows that the word's getting out, and that speaking out is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right there, but I think it is hard for men in particular to speak out, and I think that the work that you're doing is the beginning of, or you're in the vanguard of changing the kind of the narrative around domestic violence, and letting men know that it is all right to open up and be honest. And the book is so candid as well, which I think is a real triumph. And I've got an enormous amount of respect for you for that. You haven't sugarcoated anything. You've been completely honest about your behaviour and your life. And, what do you hope to see, say in 10 years? Because obviously, as you say, we're at the Male Psychology Conference, and we heard from Dr. Liz Bates yesterday, and she was saying that, not only do men have barriers in terms of, their self-image of themselves. I mean, obviously, I've been reading your book, and one of the things that Monica is repeatedly kind of saying to you is she's trying to kind of deride your manhood, and I think that seems to be quite a common theme, in male victims of female perpetrators. They question their manhood, or they question how their manhood will be perceived by the wider world if they come forward and say, I'm the victim of a woman, and you might well be a bouncer from East London who's the victim of a little woman, and that might be difficult to admit. But, not only is there that, and there's also a kind of social stigma, which I think really, unfortunately, does exist. I feel like it's changing, and your book's part of that. I don't know, you might want to comment on that as well, but also there's the structural barriers. And so I'm thinking about, when you I looked at the guidelines for the police when the coercive control bill was brought in.
Yeah.
And, they basically say men can be victims too, but they never are, basically.
Wow.
That's, and the police are trained by, organisations that are ideologically driven, who work with versions of the Duluth model, which is all about how men control women through violence and coercive means because they feel entitled. And so, structurally, are there changes you would like to see, and what are they, if so?
I feel like writing my book, I felt very alone when I wrote my book. Although I knew that it went on, I did feel very alone. But my book has broken me into a whole new world of professionals who know what's going on, victims who know what's going on, the police, some police who know what's going on. And it's interesting that you say about coercive control and police attitudes towards that. It took me 2 years to see a police inspector about my abuse. When it did happen, the police didn't do anything. They didn't do their job. But I wanted to talk to somebody about this. 2 years later, I actually got an interview with an inspector, and she said about coercive control, and I have it on tape. She said, were you under coercive control? And I said, yes. This, and this. Mm-hmm. We take that very seriously. However, did she keep you prisoner? And I said, well, no. And she said, well, that's the bar. She said, the bar is so high that unless you kept you prisoner, we couldn't take any action. That's a ridiculous bar.
It is ridiculous.
And I said, what? Then what do you need then?
Yeah.
Because there is a huge gap between nothing happening and keeping me prisoner.
Yeah.
There's a hell of a lot of stuff that can go on in between that.
Yeah.
And she said, we need more legislation. So, okay, you need more legislation. So I've got to now go to my MP, Bill Wigan, and talk to him about legislation. Whether anything will come of that, I don't know. But when you hear the government and the police talking about how they're taking coercive control so seriously, what do they mean? Do they mean they're taking it so seriously for women? Because the bar for men is too high.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. And, you know, while you were talking, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking the bar is, um, you have to be, you know, kept prisoner. But I know that's not the case for women
Yeah.
because, you know, we've just had Sally Challen, who murdered her husband, you know, and her sentence for murder was commuted to manslaughter on the basis of coercive control. And they've never mentioned keeping her prisoner.
Yeah.
It was, you know, humiliation and financial control.
Yeah.
That was it, you know. And from what I've read of your book, there was an awful lot more than humiliation and financial control going on in your situation.
Oh God, yeah, yeah, yeah. It was complete gaslighting. She made me believe that I was awful at my job when I'm in care, and I am a very, very good carer. And now I'm in a job where I'm getting praise for what I'm doing with the guys, which is brilliant. It's totally the opposite from how she made me feel. She made me believe that everybody at work hated me, and I went into work full of suspicion. What are they saying? What are they saying? What are they saying?
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, like you mentioned in the book, you know, completely isolated in terms of how can you reach out to people and tell them something that makes you incredibly vulnerable, like that you're being abused,
Yeah.
if you think they hate you?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly, yeah.
it's that barrier, and you have to wonder whether she did that on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, she was even going to, and this is how clever I believe. I was under the influence of narcissistic abuse, and this is how clever narcissistic abusers are. She went to work and told them at work, if I don't turn into work for 3 days and you don't hear from me, my boyfriend's killed me.
Oh my goodness.
So, you know, there was that aspect. What the other thing, because I really wanted a child, and she really wanted a child with me, and you know, I really want a child with you. You're the only person that I want a child with. But when the abuse started, she said, if I ever get pregnant with a child of yours, I'll have it aborted.
Oh,
And I know that she meant that because she'd had abortions before.
yeah, yeah.
So the fear in me was unbelievable.
Must have torn you up. Do you think that there is anything in your nature or in your background that predisposed you to becoming involved with this woman? And I mentioned to you yesterday, I'm kind of reading the book, and because I know that it's not going to turn out well, you know, there are red flags popping up
Yeah.
for me, but you know, obviously you didn't spot them or act on them.
No, there's so many. If you walk into any bookshop anywhere, you'll find books on spotting red flags. This is how to spot an abuser and stuff like that. That you can throw all them books out the window, because most of them won't show you anything. Because when you're in love with somebody, and I mean you're love bombed with them saying how great you are, how amazing you are, putting you on a pedestal, and then you fall so hard and so deeply in love with that person, you don't see red flags. And when they do come along, you're thinking, this woman's put me on a pedestal, this woman adores me, so surely I'm getting this wrong. You know?
Yeah.
So it's all about the preparing you as a victim first, and then you don't see the red flags.
I know you talk about the bullying you went through at school, and I
Yeah.
wonder whether there was like a residual kind of lack of self-worth, because, you know, obviously it wasn't only kind of subtle or less subtle red flags that you missed, but, you know, she attacked you very, very violently, which resulted in you having crutches and
Yeah.
going through treatment for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you moved in with her.
Yeah.
So, you know, how did that happen? Can you explain that?
I can't explain it, and I spoke to a psychologist today who can't explain it, because that as you know, there's a cycle of abuse with the abuse, the apology, the reconciliation, the abuse. She never did that. She only apologized after that bad attack, which I still, because I love to go to concerts, and I still can't stand at a concert now. I have to sit at a concert because of my back.
God.
Because of, that's the only time she apologized in reconciled. The rest of the time, she said, "This is me. Get used to it. It's only going to get worse." Why did I stay? I have no idea why I stayed.
But, you know, what I found interesting that you said to me earlier was that maybe in some cosmic kind of fashion there was a reason, you know, and the reason is that it's enabled you to grow in a very unexpected and unplanned way that, you know, you never would have wished on yourself, but you now are, you know, a stronger and better, you know, I don't know, more compassionate, more knowledgeable, I don't know. How
in a way, it's strange to say, but in a way I'm glad it happened.
Yeah.
And I thank her for what she did, because I'm the happiest I've ever been now. I'm the strongest I've ever been. I'm the most confident I've ever been. You are right. When I was a child, I was bullied at school, and I had no self-worth. And I was married for 18 years, where I got self-worth. The woman that I was married to gave me everything. She gave me the confidence and stuff, and I took advantage of that. And in the book, I explained that I was selfish, very selfish, and I'm sorry for that, because she's a wonderful person and we're still friends, thank God. And now I've got that confidence back. But I've made it myself. Nobody's had to give me that this time. Nobody's fed anything into me to give me that. It's all come from in here.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm so happy that I've met people like yourself. I've met people at the conference, and Tom, and I'm helping people now.
Yeah.
And without what happened to me, I would never be doing that.
Yeah.
I would never have a voice on the subject at all. So, thank you, Monica, in a way, because I'm so glad that I'm doing, and I'm humbled doing what I'm doing. So many people have come up to me and recognise me, recognise the book, and I'm really touched by that.
What did it take? I mean, you know, you must have been destroyed by it. You know, you still got the kind of physical impacts, but emotionally and psychologically, you must have been in pieces. So how did you begin the process of putting yourself back together stronger? And, you know, are you still going through that process?
In a way, yeah. Yeah, there are things that trigger, you know, little thoughts at the back of my head now and then. And up until recently, up until I moved house into a house which we didn't share together, which is mine, totally mine, I was still locking the door at night. I was still putting the chain on the door at night for 2 years. I've been putting the chain on the door. So something is still there, you know, and moving was the best thing that I did. Rebuilding, I went through all that, and I went through the trauma of the aftermath, and then my dad passed away. And that broke me totally. And there was nothing left then. I was basically ashes then. And I thought, I need to get away. I need to find some peace. So I went to India, in Nepal. And when I got to Nepal, I stayed at a meditation center, and I went into my room. And when I was married, my wife, she loved 5-star hotels, the best of everything.
This is your first wife, not
my first
Monica,
wife. She loved the 5-star life. When I went to Nepal, I went into the room, and there was a bed on the floor and a bathroom. That was it. And I knew that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I knew that's what I needed. And I cried when I went into the room. And when I went to see the guy on the desk, I told him that I'd cried. He said, "You've got the Buddhist building outside your window. You've got a meditation room at the end of the corridor. Underneath your room are shops selling Buddhist figures. That's the power of this place." And that was the start of me growing again. And I was getting up, I was meditating, walking meditation around the Buddhist building with the locals. I was meditating in caves with monks. And I never heard anybody moan about their life, nobody concentrating on their past. It was amazing. And when I came back, I just changed the whole way that I was living. Because the past doesn't exist apart from in your own head. And you are in control of your inner world. Nobody else can control that. And
Yeah.
that's how I live my life now.
The ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been so transformative for you. It's quite amazing. And is that something you still practice? Like, do you practice the meditation, or is it just the kind of some of the lessons that you've kept with you?
I'm Buddhist now.
You are, yeah.
Yeah. I'm Buddhist now, so I make offerings in the morning. My first thought in my head in the morning is, thank you for letting me wake up. And I appreciate all the little things. I'm not materialistic. I don't want anything in life but peace and to help other people. In compassion, in the work that I've been doing with victims and in my job in care. I'm changing people's lives in my job. So that means everything to me.
Lovely. I think we better
Okay.
get down here.